Welcome to Craftmas Day 21. I originally had this video a little bit later on in the week, but I figured I'd release it a little bit earlier because obviously you need some time to get all of these things together. So today's video is, obviously you know from the title, last minute Christmas gifts and ideas. These are some things that I want to share with you that are relatively inexpensive, that you can give as gifts to friends and family. I said this in my video last year, giving gifts shouldn't be something that's like super expensive, that you've got to spend a ton of money on. You want to give somebody something that you know that they'll enjoy, but also to show that, you know, you care, you love them, because that's, in my opinion, the most important part. So we're going to be starting off with some of the really inexpensive gifts that you can give somebody. And the first really inexpensive gift that you can give while still customizing it yourself is a custom candle. Now, these are some candles that I made a few months ago when I did my water slide tutorial. Now, this is essentially water slide paper, like I mentioned, so you print it off with your printer. You can cut it out with your hand, or you can use print then cut to cut it out so that it has that nice offset cut, but you really don't need to. You can just do that by hand. If you don't have water slide paper and you're not keen on going through the whole schlep of learning how to use a different kind of paper, then you can print on tissue paper and use the hairdryer method to transfer the image onto the candle. I'm not gonna lie, I have never done this before. I do still want to do it. It's on my extremely long list of things that I want to do at some point in the future, but it is there. The second thing that I want to show you is quite on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to price, because, you know, cutting boards themselves typically tend to be very expensive. This is a cutting board that I got at the Sedgefield market. It was a gentleman that did boards, and I will put his details up here. It was, I think it was like I can't remember the exact price, but it was somewhere around 250 Rand for this cutting board. It is a stunning live edge cutting board, and obviously you wouldn't want to put vinyl on something like this because vinyl isn't food safe. The only way that you would get it to be able to be food safe is by having it laser engraved, or by using vinyl as a stencil and then using wood burning glue or scorch paste or something like that to be able to actually scorch the design on. So it's a very fun process, and I don't yet have a video on that. Again, I will add it to my never-ending video list, and I'll hopefully show you how to do it at some point in the future. Another idea is to go relatively simple with something like a sequin pillow. Now, this is a beautiful sequin pillow that changes when you move your hand over the design. And I did do this with sublimation, but you could also use infusible inks for this as well if you're wanting to use the Cricut product. If you're wanting to know how I got my design that large, I will link a video up in the top on how to print A3 with your A4 printer. It's a beautiful method that I use to make sure that you're not going to have lines in the middle where you're joining your pages up. And it is pretty much foolproof if you follow the method to the T, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. Another super low cost idea for gifts is to have a design put on bags. So this is a little canvas kind of tote bag thing that I actually ended up sewing myself. I'm relatively decent with a sewing machine, and I actually gave these to just the plain bags because it was before I had Cricuts and silhouettes and things like that. I gave them to most of my family for Christmas a few years ago, and they absolutely raved about these bags. It was just nice to receive something that you could use regularly. Obviously now it would be a different story because now they would have, like, you know, cute sayings on them and things like that. I plan on putting a saying on this one and giving it to my sister, so I've actually hand sewn the bag myself. I'm going to not hand cut, Cricut cut the design on it and put a design on it for her, but I'm going to customize it for something that she will enjoy and that may be funny for her. So I'm not going to give it away because she's probably watching this, so at least now you know what you're getting for Christmas. Let's hope that you watch this only after Christmas, but anyway. Or you can, of course, you know, sew your own pillowcase. A pillowcase is something that is really, really easy to sew. Overlock the edges, you fold it in a particular way, and then you sew up the sides, and that's quite literally your pillowcase. So I'm definitely going to try and sew some of those pillowcases. I might even do one out of that same canvas material because it's a really nice heavy duty material for a pillowcase. Another method that I also shared last year is a personalized notebook. Now, in my opinion, personalized notebooks are probably one of the most popular low-cost last-minute Christmas gifts because it's really quick to do one of these, but you just have to have the right method. So this is done with iron-on vinyl, well, normal heat transfer vinyl, because it's not a Cricut brand. I did this pre-Cricut days. But it's really simple to be able to do this. So it's actually preferred to do this with household iron, and you can essentially get, you know, a lot nicer, more control of the heat with an iron than you can with a heat press. If you're using your heat press, you really need to make sure that you're careful with the temperature and the time that you're pressing, because if you're not using a polyurethane type notebook, then you could potentially burn the notebook and like completely damage your heat press, although you should be using a Teflon sheet or a silicone sheet or something like that. So that's a great way to try and save your heat press if you're doing these kinds of things. But you want to really make sure that you're double covering the areas that aren't going to be pressed, and then you can either take your mini press or your heat press or whatever the case may be and just slowly move it over the vinyl, because you don't need a lot of pressure. You pretty much just need, well, you actually shouldn't have a lot of pressure at all, because if you use too much pressure, then the glue ends up kind of seeping out of the sides. So that's how you know if you've used too much pressure. If you see little glue bits on either side of the letters, then your pressure is too high, and back off a little bit, because you quite literally just need to melt the glue and you don't need to have a lot of pressure on this. Now, this last one is not something that I've ever covered, and it's something that I actually bought a few weeks ago because I absolutely needed it, and it's been sitting in a bag ever since. Can anybody else relate? But it is to actually put some vinyl on these super cool Starbucks cups. If you've been living under a rock for the last year or so, we now have Starbucks in South Africa, finally. And you can actually get these super cool cups from Starbucks. They've only recently started bringing in these plastic cups. So it comes with a lid and a straw, and they're really nice to be able to customize. So you can, you know, put somebody's name over the side or put tons of vinyl on it. They are 69 Rand, and there are 5 different colors, and they really are quite pretty. I mean, there's obviously the cup, you can see it has the little lid, and I should have put the straw in first. Because it has a little stopper, so the straw actually can't come out, which is really nice. But they've also got a slight glitter to them. It's a really, I mean, I'm never far away from my water bottle, so when it comes to those kinds of things, it is really great. And when it comes to doing the name on the Starbucks cup, what I find is a really nice kind of twist to it is to, number one, do 2 layers of vinyl, so kind of maybe do a white layer or a holographic layer or something like that at the back, and then you can actually use the heat or cold sensitive vinyl on top of that. So you do it as like obviously a layered vinyl, and then it would look super, super cool, because these mugs are quite thin. So, you know, whatever you have on the inside, whether it's ice water or coffee or whatever the case may be, then the decal will actually change depending on what is being placed inside the cup. So if you know the person's a little bit of a coffee addict, then maybe use the heat reactive vinyl. And if you know the person is like me, pretty much almost never drinks hot stuff but is never far away from ice water, then you can use the cold reactive vinyl, because there are 2 different kinds. But if you are looking for that kind of vinyl, you can get it from Snippy Sisters. And if you are watching this before Christmas, then unfortunately they are closed at the moment for the Christmas holidays, because even goddesses need a little bit of a break. Doing last minute Christmas gifts is always very daunting, because that's generally when things go wrong. But stop, breathe, restart, and try again, because generally I find that when I'm in a panic, that's when things go wrong. So you've got this, don't worry about it. Take it calmly. I'd rather be 5 minutes late at something than having to do something all over again because I was trying to save 20 seconds. I hope that you have a wonderful, happy holidays, and I will see you tomorrow in my next video for Cricketmas Day 11. And remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.